So my name is Emily, Rapp Black. I have many names, which makes me sound demonic. But I am working on a book called I Would Die If I Were You, which is a craft book from 20 years of teaching. I describe it as a craft book for sad intellectual people. And I wrote it because I felt like a lot of the craft books felt a little bit precious to me. And I had just come out of I don't know, almost 4 years of running a child loss workshop for people who had lost children. And what I realized from that first meeting was that the way to tell those kind of untellable or unspeakable stories, the way in was different. So this book is about how if you've had some kind of really significant trauma, i.e., something bigger than like stubbing your toe, or you know what I mean, or like worrying about being a writer, and if you're good, like really like having been walloped by something really intense, particularly grief, loss, shame, trauma, any kind of trauma, these are tactics I think, or I have found to be helpful for people, myself included, who are trying to tell a story without getting the response from readers like, oh my God, I would die if I were you, which is not helpful, just turns out.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, it's a way of making those uncontainable stories palatable for people so that they can learn something from them or see themselves in those stories, even if they think it will never happen to them. Yeah.
That sounds amazing and super necessary. I feel like a lot of yeah, I feel like I could talk about that for a long time. And I think that line is actually in Frida Kahlo in My Left Leg. I think so. Like I was just looking through the
I
line.
don't know.
I may have actually earmarked something very close to it. It was like,
That's hilarious. I love it when people, someone sent me a paragraph of my work and they're like, read this paragraph. And I read it. I was like, oh, it's really good. She's like, I was like, who wrote that? And she's like, you. And I'm like, oh, I did. I don't remember.
yeah, it's I was because I was like poking through it as I like try to do before I meet with people, and I was thinking a lot, obviously about that. Gosh, I either like almost earmarked. I have so many. I'm really bad with the folding of the pages. So many
Oh,
pages.
I'm always like writing in mine with Sharpies and stuff. It's like
Yes.
bleeding the page. Yeah.
I think it's awesome. I feel like that's like a journal, like across all the books that I own for my children after
Yeah.
I die.
Yeah. Here are your little marginalia. Here's what your mama was thinking. Yeah.
Um, but I think that's a really big theme
There's
in
this
this
conversation.
conversation that you overhear in the at it's not in the museum, it's at a show of Frida Kahlo's work that is kind of expressing the same sentiment of, and this whole idea of like troubling the cliche of art coming from pain. I wondered if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean it's a real I gotta be in my bonnet about it, to be honest. I think there's a real fetishization of women in pain. And where I get all my news on Instagram, I saw some meme about the way in which women are applauded for tolerating pain, whether that's childbirth or menstrual cycle or violence or any kind of violence against them, and then it's this kind of like badge of honor, like, oh, you're so strong and like you can bear the pain, like you're like a man, and I find it really disturbing because having been through a lot of physical pain at a young age, very similar to what Frida was going through, although bracket, she had less access to things that would be helpful to me. Like she's having these operations similar to what I had in a very different time in a different country, with different resources in terms of pain management. So there's that. Um, but it's not a muse. Like it's just pain and it sucks. And it's like it doesn't give rise to creativity. I think if you are an artist and you create because you have to, and you do that out of whatever space you happen to be in. But this idea that pain is a muse, or that you get a badge of honor because you've been through it, or you're expected to be strong, is really annoying. And it also is part of the kind of ableist trope of like, oh, you're so extraordinary. You're so extraordinary that you're almost ordinary. Like, and it just to be ordinary would be a failure. But I really do object to that idea that anyone who's experienced like physical pain knows that it doesn't make you think about anything but pain. Like it's not like I now want to create. That's not what it does. So I find that storyline with her really like infantilizing, to be honest, and very gross. I mean, it's just gross. Like the operations that she endured, the pain that she endured, um, is no one can imagine that because you can't imagine someone else's pain. It's impossible. But I know for a fact that no one I have ever talked to that's experienced pain in that way, physical pain of the body, is like, now I feel like I want to go out and read a book. They just want it to stop. They want the pain to stop. I mean, hello. So I think so that yeah, that is something that a lot of the way that she's written about in art books and by art critics is just annoying. It's like it's very patriarchal. It's very simplistic. Um, and I, I don't know anything about art history. I'm not an art historian, but I do know something about pain. And there was something about the way she depicts it in her paintings that is without sentimentality, even if the descriptions of those paintings by critics then become slightly sentimentalized.
I've been reading your books forever. Like I was like they've always been really helpful to me. And like one of the things that I think about a lot when I read your books and like a couple other writers is just like how the stories are continued like through multiple books of your life and just different experiences. And it's such like a pleasure that we have this genre of narrative
Mhm.
nonfiction now where we can like have these sort of sagas that are not presented as sagas,
Mhm.
a life and like themes. And you know, you know this stuff about me. I think I can't remember. I mean, like I never remember what I write or publish either, but my right. And so I have like two extra vertebrae in my spine. So I have like a corkscrew spine. So I have like an invisible like pain thing. And
Mhm.
um I also have like terrible endometriosis and I like used to do art to get through it. Like I would like medicine doesn't really work when my uterus is pissed off and or when like I've had to have treatments and stuff. And so it was really interesting. Like I started with art when I was a kid because of pain, but it wasn't because I've always like been trying to articulate like it's not like it inspired me in any way. Like I'm not like, yay, I'm so glad. It's like so what you wrote was really cool to read because I'm like, oh yeah, it's really about surviving it. It's just like I think we like move our identities to the parts of our bodies that we can focus on that aren't hurting, like our hands, like making art with your hands.
Exactly. That's perfect. I mean, I think, yeah, it's like pain doesn't inspire it, but it makes it necessary. Like stories sustain us through that, but the origin story of that story isn't pain, is kind of how I see it. Like I remember being in the hospital really young, um, uh, and you know, wanting just to read. Thank God there was no Netflix, or I'd just be like completely dumb and have watched like not 10 years of television. But like I wanted to read because I just wanted an escape. And it wasn't that I was reading, I don't know what I was reading, probably Madeline L'Engle or something, or Island of the Blue Dolphins 10 times. Probably that one. I love that book. It's one of my favorite books of all time. And I just wanted to think because my head didn't hurt. Everything else did. And then so I think, we talk about it sounds dopey, but stories really do save people. I mean, if you think about the stories that people like, even if you think about the Bible, like people think that is saving them in terms of like comforting or whatever. And although that's not my touchstone book, I do read things by like, my favorite writers, and I'm like, I'm so glad I have this story in my head. Like it sustains me in this way that makes me feel like I belong in the world. And I think that feeling, when you're in pain, you are severed from the world in a sense. Like you're on planet O pain and you're the only person there. And and even if people are trying to help you, even if you're not truly alone, you kind of are. So I think there's an element of the salvific force of story runs through every human being. Like you know what I mean? I don't think you have to experience, it's not a Kelly Clarkson song, like, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's not that. It's just that like when you have limited options, you always have story.
Yeah,
Whatever that is, if it's art through your hands or thinking through your mind or, all those things, that's accessible. And so many times the other things aren't. I can't believe I just quoted Kelly Clarkson. Like I don't even
that's awesome. I think that's great. And Island of the Blue Dolphins, which, side note, my like touchstone books were The Vampire Chronicles by Anne Rice, which I read at the summer after fourth
Nice.
grade. And before that, I loved The Island of the Blue Dolphins. So the first like book that I wrote when I was like 12 was a vampire dolphin book, which was probably amazing. I
Wait,
wish I still had
was a dolphin an actual vampire?
no.
Oh, okay.
but the dolphins were friends with the vampires,
Oh
which
my God, that's so cool. It's like the zombie movies where the zombies are friends with the cheerleaders, which, by the way, the next one's coming out, Zombies 15. Oh, it came out. Zombies 4.
I think a lot about your it was your first book. Poster Child was your first book, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And God, I like ate that book up because I have a kid who was like having, I mean, is a Shriner's kid, and
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
and the cast saw. I mean, I love that you write about the cast saw. Like I that the cast saw, I think, is like a character of in my family. It's like one of my children, like because Margot had, I mean, she's gonna have another cast. She has one more surgery for her leg. She's 13 and like
Oh,
she's had like 14 surgeries.
I hear
And
you. I hear you, girl, Margot. I'm with you.
right. And I'm like I like read that book. Like I'm like, what can I not fuck up with my kid?
Oh my God, that's so funny. Well, I mean, this is the thing. Like, it's so interesting. And I remember my parents were like completely there, present, whatever. But now that they're in their 80s, like they're starting to have surgeries, right? And so they're saying to me, yeah, it's like it's really scary to have surgery. And I'm like, hello. So like one of the things that was never said to me, and this is not to shade my parents at all, because whatever, it was the 70s and 80s. No one knew what was doing. Someone told my mom I was like, mentally delayed. They had no idea what was going on, which is clearly not true. That wasn't true. And I was like, wow, I wish someone had asked me if I was afraid. It was like, you're gonna be fine. Like it was like straight to the end. And I do think like I've talked to them about this. Like I'm like, yeah, now you understand like that I couldn't express how afraid I was, but I was afraid. I also knew that I was not alone, but I was also scared. And it would have been nice to be able to just be like, I'm scared and that's okay, right? I don't know. So again, this is not to like be mad at my parents. I just think when you haven't gone through it, you don't know. Like you're really alone in that surgical theater, right? It's terrifying. And as a parent, it's terrifying in a different way. But for the person it's still the person that's having it done that's the most.
Funny things have happened. Like people called her an arthrogrypod for a long time. Because her diagnosis was arthrogryposis. That was weird. It was like an alien creature. I was worried
Yeah.
about that one. But they were pretty good about stuff like that. And like I don't know. I didn't have a lot of surgeries, but I had a lot of treatments when I was younger, like traction and stuff like that. So
Spinal stuff. Yeah.
yeah, I just like insisted that people did not tell her you're okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
And that
that's
they gave her
great.
pain management because like they wanted to give her fucking Tylenol all the
No,
time.
no, that's not enough.
Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy. No, it's like, I mean, that's just ridiculous. Like Tylenol, are you kidding? Like for that kind of an invasive surgery, like whatever she needs to not have pain. I mean, that's
Yeah.
shoot it up, like get it in there. Like that there's no reason to feel that way.
Right. And like that's something that, as I was reading the book, I was thinking about the different time periods and the different treatments and like your experience and Frida's and Margot. And I was thinking like it's so interesting how things have like bounced around. Like there's this idea that there's like virtue in pain. And
Mhm.
part of that now, which I think is really interesting, has to do with the opioid crisis and just like we don't want people to become addicted to pain relief. And that's like I think a lot of why like pain relief was not offered to Margot when she was like I had to
Right.
fight for her to even have Tylenol and Advil after like a femur surgery.
Oh God. Oh.
And like I'm like an asshole parent.
Good.
I'm like I just pace around like bugging everybody until they
Yeah,
do what
good.
I want
That's
them
what you're
to do.
supposed to do. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's so interesting because I feel like a lot of what you're discussing in there was this idea that not only does like pain come from art, but there's like a weird virtue in women's pain that is like different from men's pain. Like men are like muscling through it, but women are supposed to like gain profound meaning from it or something like that. You know what I
Or
mean?
say nothing at all.
Yeah.
Or just suffer silently.
Yeah.
Like that's so interesting because I think I have this in the Frida book. I love that I have no idea what I wrote. Where, it would be really painful. I'd be really scared and I would not make a sound. And they would and the nurse, every nurse, just all nurses would say, "What a good patient." And then the second one, "What a good girl." Like you don't make a sound. Like it's like when in Scientology when they have to give birth silently or something. Like it's like what is that about? So like like when Charlie goes to get her shots, like she has to go get shots today. I'm like, you scream if you want, I don't care. Like,
Mhm.
and if it hurts, let them know. Like it's okay. But this idea that like eating it, like just like, and that makes you good. Like I think about that now, and I'm just like, God, I'm just I'm like, no wonder I'm so messed up. Because it's just like, just suffer in silence. That makes you a good woman. And if you think about how that reverberates into every part of our lives, like in a bad relationship, just eat it, be silent, deal with it. Whereas men just like it's all outward stuff. I mean, I just think it's so interesting and I did read this book that was recommended to me by a friend called What Happened to You. It's like by Dr. Perry and Oprah. Have you read that?
I've listened to it.
Yeah, and I'm like, first of all, I was like, this is going to be annoying. It's going to be like a self-help book, and I was like, oh my God, this is like, it's the science is digestible, and I was like, this makes so much sense because if someone like, and I'm sure this has happened to your daughter and to you, what's wrong with you is the question versus what happened to you and how different the energetics of those two statements are. Like, what happened to you? Oh, I had something happen, but what's wrong with you? Automatically puts it into this like bad camp,
Mhm.
right? And asks for like a performative response where you're then like showing the person that nothing is wrong with you. Well, nothing is wrong with you, but some stuff happened to you. Like those two different, I just love that book. And I can't believe I loved it because I never love stuff like that. But I thought it was just really insightful.
Mhm.
So yeah, that whole you're automatically wrong unless you prove that you're right.
I lived in Boston for a minute and I was actively being like very up close. People would come up to me and be like, "What's wrong with her? What did you do to her?" When we would wear casts and stuff. And just like I have
So
thought about this so many times. Like it's just like this weird thing of like people want to ask you these questions. Like early in your book, I think you write about people wanting to ask how far your prosthetic goes up, which is the weirdest fucking question in the world. Why would anyone think of asking that?
oh, all the time. Like actually, just last week, I had someone ask me that. Like not that okay, a TSA agent has to.
Yeah.
Okay, they have to ask you, and it's annoying.
Yeah.
Like, but I had a student say, "Oh, however, just go." I was like, "You know what? Like, we're supposed to be like writing right now." And then she said, "It's just such a shame that they can't make a leg so that you don't limp." What? Wow. Like, no matter what you do, it comes. Yeah, but people ask, "Oh, do you shower?" I mean, I'm in the elevator. Do you take a shower with it? It's like, dude. Like what? And I think honestly, because I grew up in a hospital environment in the 70s and 80s when like let's just say far, far, far from me too. Like, no one asked if the residents could come in. You're just walking around, whatever. I did not have any expectation of privacy at all because I didn't have any
Mhm.
ever. And I was a daughter of a pastor, and so our communal life was also very public. And so everyone could come in, everyone could ask questions, everyone was welcome. And now it's like now at like 51, I'm like, oh my God, what's a boundary? Like, and so I think nonfiction has been for me, first of all, a natural thing because I'm so used to talking about myself in public places and all over in elevators and in offices and, just ridiculous questions that are personal, that it's like kind of a privacy firewall for me because I'm like, oh, well, you want to know the story here. I wrote a book. You may have this book and now you can be quiet.
Mhm.
Like, and so it's for me, it's been a maintenance of privacy in some sense, because then at least I have control over that story versus the one that someone slaps on me the minute they see me. Like, what did you do to her? What's wrong with her? Or how did you mess up? Like, tell me your accident story. Tell me your salacious story. It's like that emotional, that's a lot. It's emotional labor and it's exhausting. Writing has helped me say, well, I do write about these things, but I don't talk to them to strangers.
When you were writing about Frida, how like people like don't see her as somebody who is like intrinsically lovable. Like it was just like she was like this hysterical, crazy in love with Diego while he was off fucking a bunch of other people, but she was off fucking a bunch of other people too.
No, I mean it's also just like, oh, the poor girl. Like it's like then what I love about their whole thing is that no one can really people try to define it, but they really can't. And
Mhm.
there's some really creepo things about it. Like, she walked by this mural that he was creating when she was in grade school. It was like the world, But the reality is they shared something, and they also had other lovers, and they were very ahead of their time, and she was inspired by him and he was inspired by her. Like no one really knows a lot about him, which I think is sort of like poetic justice. Like his work is just doesn't really compare to hers in terms of popularity. Um, but yeah, I mean, and just like not seeing her as a real woman, and she, she talks a lot about that, like, not being able to have children, or this, like, those corsets that she made with like the hole in the middle. And I mean, what's the amazing thing about her, all of the corsets and the legs that I write about in the Frida book is that they just went on display like 10 years ago. Of course, now it's been like a decade, but I didn't even know that was going to be at the Casa Azul. And like the reality is no one saw those objects except for her lovers and people who really knew her. She hid it. And so you could say, like in our idea of what bodily freedom looks like, you could be like, oh, she was shamed and like she was hiding. It's like those things were amazing. Like those were like to be unsheathed for only special people. It's like when people are like, oh, well, someone once said this to me, like, you should, photograph yourself in a bikini on a beach. And I'm like, first of all, no matter what, I would never do that in any world. Like my parents are Midwestern. I'm 51. Like I'm not gonna ever, I would never do that. I'm Gen X. Like we didn't have bikini photos. So it's like that whole thing is like that to me isn't bodily freedom. To me, it's that hiding the most beautiful part for only the person that deserves it. That to me is freedom. And like people would be like, "Oh, that's so old-fashioned." I'm like, "Whatever, I don't care." Her curation of these objects that were part of her body that only she and the closest people, that she was the only one that saw them, or the closest people to her saw them, to me is really beautiful and kind of sexy and cool. And I tried to kind of touch on that in the book because it goes against our like modern ideas of what physical freedom or like physical empowerment looks like,
Mhm.
which I think is quite limited and kind of dumb.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I love that part, and I've never actually been to that museum. I love Koyaakan. It's like one of my favorite places to be in the world.
So much.
But I've just refused to go to the museum. Like, I don't know, I had like this thing, like I'm like, it's somebody else is curating a museum. Like it just like bothered me. So I'm like really glad that I got to go into it in your book because I'm like, ooh, now I get to know without having to like
Yeah. I
go.
mean, it is weird. Like I mean, I talk about this in the book. It was just like heaving with people, and they were all making a beeline for the bed where she died. That was weird. And I didn't even know that was happening. Like I was pregnant, like didn't have a clue. I was just like, I love Frida Kahlo. Let's go to the museum before
Mhm.
it was like impossible to get a ticket. So yeah, there is like it is full on fetishization in that crowd. There's no way around it. I mean, she's one of the most famous faces in the world. Um, and it's like it's kind of funny. It's like she's like the Pedro Pascal of like female artists. Right? I mean, it really, like pretty soon we're gonna have Pedro bags. Like, it's just so funny. Like, but there's something about both of them that is so deeply authentic in very different ways that I think that strikes a chord in people. And for whatever reason, it's like, and then it just escalates. Like, imagine if there'd been Instagram like with Frida and Diego. That would have been hilarious.
Oh my God, right. I do wonder how like people in the past would have dealt with this like demand for everything being public, which I think is part of why we are constantly confronted with questions like all the questions that we're confronted with. It's
Yeah.
like people just think that everything is their property and that they
Yes.
own everything. It's so fucking weird.
It's so, yeah, and monetizing your experience in this way, like, I don't know. I just remember being in college. I mean, I honestly think it's because I'm 51, and so the internet didn't happen until I was an adult.
Mhm.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Like I just feel like at that time there was so much more. No one, people looked at each other more.
Mhm.
They looked at each other more, but were less obsessed with how they looked. Figure that one out because they weren't like this, like and then there were no Photoshop, there was no filter, there was no. It was just like you in the college dorm with your acne
Mhm.
and your roommate like in your face.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just interesting to me how that's changed. I don't mean to sound like an old person. I just think there are pros and cons to all of it, but sometimes I think, especially for women, it's problematic. Yeah.
Yeah. It's super weird. It's like this persona culture. And like thinking about that with the in the context of Frida, I mean, she kind of was like the first the first person who like made her, and like the persona that she made was this
Yeah.
like, flowered broken thing, which is so, it's such an interesting thing to do, to make a million self-portraits.
It's amazing. And even
Yeah.
like her clothes, like, I mean, and I totally respond to this. I totally get it. Like her outfits were just like, people were like, what are you wearing? Right.
Mhm.
And because she was like, well, I'm going to dress traditionally and I'm going to like put all this stuff. And I get that. I mean, it's like if you have anything going on with your body that's like non-normative, like fashion can be a really fun way of like confusing people and diverting attention in
Mhm.
a different way. Like, and I've always been like that. Always like my daughter's like, why don't you dress like the other moms? I'm like, well, there's a lot of reasons for that. But secondly, like I just think it's part of the persona. It's like it's to deflect the attention from the other thing. Like and I don't know, there's some kind of like secret beauty and like kind of rebelliousness, I think, that is in the like her outfits, like in the museum, when you see her outfits, they're just amazing. Like
Mhm.
they're ridiculous. They're so beautiful and like so attention grabbing. So it's like instead of having someone stare and be like, oh my God, what's that? It's like say, taking the attention and putting it where you want it. And
Mhm.
there's power in that. And I really appreciate that about her aesthetic and the way that she dressed and did her hair and all of that. She's like, look at me. Look at me
Mhm.
the way I want you to see me, not the way that you think you see me.
Yeah, I love that. And that's funny because Margot has always had light up wheels on her wheelchairs.
Love
And
that.
like they've always offered that, and I've always been like, yes, we need that. And I'm like, what is it that I want about, like, that I want about that? And it's, I think that you're right. I think it's a redirection, but it's also just like pleasing.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's like
Like,
if you like it, you like it. Like I happen to like clothes. I've always done that. I've always been like drawn to those things. And so yeah, I mean I have a lot of friends. I don't think this is like a all disabled women do this. Like I have one really close friend who's was a professional athlete who has the same disability as me. And she has no patience for any of my stuff. She's just like, what are you doing? Like she's like I mean, not that I don't wear yoga pants every day, but she's just like her world is athletics. Like she's not interested in any of these things. And
mhm.
so I think, just like any person, we're all different. But that really drew me to Frida was the whole like the show,
Mhm.
the fashion show.
The setting of the book is really interesting. Like the majority of, at least I think it's like the first two-thirds or three-fourths of the book, the majority of it is actually like rooted in you being in her house or at her exhibition, and then kind of moving back and forth in time around that. I wondered if you want to talk about that
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah. I mean, for this, so this book started as an essay that Gina Frangello, who you've interviewed and who's my business partner and unpaid therapist and BFF, I was like grumping around in Mexico when we were teaching there, I guess now 12 years ago. And she's like, why don't you go write an angry death essay? She's like, you're being annoying. Like, she didn't say that, but she's like, go write an essay. And I was like, well, yeah, I will. So I went back to my, so I did. And it became that essay. And she was like, oh, I want this for the rumpus or whatever. And then someone approached me and was said, oh, this should be a book. And I was like, really? So, so then I had some freedom to just kind of, there's a Victoria's Secret essay in there. I'd always wanted to write about my experience working in that complete shit show of a place. Um, and so I think part of what's interesting to me about nonfiction is to crystallize like one experience and then to show that even in those experiences, there's all this other time, there's all this other stuff that is outside of that time frame. So it's like, I always talk about this in class. It's like kind of annoying, but I think it's really interesting. Is the Greeks had two words for time, right? It's like Chronos time, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, Kairos time, the time of COVID, the time of whatever. And I think we live our lives in those intersections of those times, even though we may not realize it, which is why the Greeks were so smart. Like we're always living in a time, but we're also living by a certain time clock. And I wanted the book to have that feeling of like, the person who's in the Casa Azul, the narrator who is a version of me or whatever, is also bringing with her all of those other experiences that, although aren't like running like a narrative through my head, make up part of my response, right? So it's like we all come with these experiences. It's like not baggage. It's not even a bad thing. It's like this texture of experience that roves all around time. We bring it with us to these moments where our attention is absolutely arrested,
Mhm.
even though we're completely focused. Like when I saw those legs, I was like, I was just completely focused. But somewhere in my body were all of those other memories, which contributed to that focus. So that was my kind of intention. Also, I was really late with the book and I was like, I have to write some stuff. So I sent it too. But I think we never live in just one time frame. I
Mhm.
mean, we think we do and we don't. And
Yeah.
and it was fun for me at this book to be able to really play with that conception. Even when I talk about my son, like being being dead and like being in this like weird heaven. I don't believe in heaven, but like in this realm of dead people, like having a conversation, like, just imagining these different like places where I could imagine him being. Like, are they real? No. Are they not real? No. I mean, who knows? They're imaginative.
In the book, for most of it, you're pregnant with Charlie, and about a year after Ronan died. And I feel like that there's a lot of intersections between or intersections of grief and I was like, and what? And pain, I guess it's grief and pain and art, but like this thing of being like not one thing but also that thing again is really interesting to me, like the way that we don't have like a tragedy in our lives, but we have like a ripple of tragedies, or whatever, tragedy is the wrong word, but like, I feel like when something terrible happens, we're often like the terrible thing has happened. And one of my first terrible thing that happened to me was when I was like a child, and then it's been like a lot of them over and over. It doesn't end.
Doesn't end. No, I mean, it's so true. Like, this is I cannot believe I'm going to make this reference, but it's okay. So there's an SVU episode, Law and Order SVU. So basically, I love that show for a lot of different reasons, like everyone in the world, but I like pretty sure Mariska Hargitay wants to be my friend. Anyway, but in one of the shows, someone has something horrible has happened to this woman. She's been raped, probably. And she's talking to Mariska, who's looking perfect and like awesome. And she's saying, like, when my mother died or my grandmother died, I thought, oh, this is the worst thing that's ever going to happen to me. And then it's like, no, no, that's never how it is. Like, it's never just the one thing. You think you've had the one like shit hand, but there's so many other shit hands. But the thing about that is that, oh, shit hand, that's a terrible image. But is that you don't really know you're happy unless you know you're sad. I had some stress about my pregnancy with Charlie, but I loved being pregnant both times. I was like the happiest pregnant lady, which just shocked me. I mean, I just felt great. I was never sick. I like, I just felt amazing. And so that helped. But I think, yeah, to be the thing again and then to try again. And I had a lot of people say to me, "Oh, I would just give up. I would never try again at marriage." And well, I would never try again at parenthood. And I'm just like, why? Like, not that I'm some special person, but it's like, do you think that you can somehow shelter yourself from pain from other sources? Like, you cannot. Like, it will come for you. Like, chaos will come for you. Even if you pretend like it won't, even if you do everything to shore up your resources, it doesn't matter. Like, the world doesn't care. And so why be, I mean, I'm not saying like throw caution to the wind, but like, why be worried when you just don't know? You just never know. Like, my dad had heart surgery. Everyone was very worried about it. He's old. He got a pacemaker. His best friend came to visit him in the hospital and dropped dead. Yeah. Like, okay, that's not what anyone was worried about. That happened. Like, I just, and it's so sad. It's so, so sad. But it's the truth of life, right? It's like, we know that deep down. We know that's true deep down. And we do all of these other things to shore ourselves up against that truth. And I think part of the role of art is to pull that curtain back and say, it's okay. It's okay that chaos will find you. It's okay that you're going to die. Like, all of these things are fine.
Mhm.
Like, just decide what you're going to do and then do your best and enjoy yourself. Like, enjoy your life as best you can. And I think no, that reminder can never come enough, I think.
I agree. I one of the things I underlined in your book is a line in like the middle of it about how it's at the end of the line is that grief, which is the most intense kind of love. And I was thinking about that a lot after I read it, because I feel like that is something that when my dad died when I was a kid, I like was a fucking maniac because I was like, everyone, you're gonna die. This is amazing. Like life is so cool. And like I remember this one of my friends sat with me and he was like, you don't always have to say deep things. And I'm like, what? I'm not saying deep things. I'm just saying that like we're gonna die. And so life can be really cool. And like I just like couldn't articulate basically that you articulated so much better is that like when you lose something, like you get to know how much you loved it and love differently and be in love with the moment because it's gone and you know things are going to go away. It's like the
That's
best
exactly right.
news like that we're going
Exactly
to
right.
die.
It's like that Rilke quote, love and death are the greatest gifts given to us. Most of them are passed on unopened. That's not exactly the right one, but that's so true.
Yeah.
With love and death. Like, and there's a great book, The Five Invitations by Frank Ozasteski, who I went to his death workshop. Sounds as fun as it was. And he's talking about like, getting into, and Pema Chodron talks about this too, like getting in touch with the fact of your mortality makes you appreciate life much more. It makes you happier.
Yeah.
The death phobia that we have in this culture is so toxic. That's the thing. It's killing our joy, right? The
Yes.
world is going to kill us. Like our bodies will die. Like
Mm-hmm.
we are on that's there's only one way out. But
Mm-hmm.
like if you're constantly like saying it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen, you kill your own like deep joy knowing that things are fleeting. Like I definitely know what you mean. Like the moments after or weeks after Ronan died, when I was out of the worst grief part and stopped screaming at birds, I was really mad at birds. Who knew? I was like, wow, life is amazing. Like this thing, like when you see someone die, you realize like how final it is and how you want to be close to life, right? It
Yeah.
makes you want to live, right? And it can turn you into a lunatic. It turned me into a lunatic too, like in a good way,
Mm-hmm.
or not good way, but like or whatever, in a way that it did. So it's like that. I think you're absolutely right. Like the more we push away, and like that's another thing I really love about Frida's work is that she acknowledged like the gore, like she those gory, bloody, like she's always got some kind of blood dripping and something growing out of her, and I just think, yeah, that's it. Like like why not look it in the face, in her face,
Mm-hmm.
and say, this is what we're given. And it's not like a call to then like go be awesome or like do the hustle thing. It's basically just like, this is what you're given. Like, isn't that amazing? Like sitting with that without saying like, and now I have to go do something amazing to prove that I'm, lucky to be alive. Just enjoy that you are. Like, that's it. What I'm talking about in this craft book is like, everyone unclench your butthole. Like, just stop. Like, when you sit down to write, like that energy was all of my 20s and 30s. When Ronan was diagnosed, my butthole was unclenched. I was free of the clench and I was just writing and writing. Like if you can channel that without having a massive grief experience, like relax. Like do what you can and then stop. Like it's just does not have to be. It's so part of the capitalist like hustle, do this, numbers. And yes, I know that's important in some ways. It's part of what makes we have to pay bills, we have to do these things, but it's not really at the core of what's important. Um, which can't be monetized, sadly. It's the one thing that can't be monetized. AI. Like yes, you can have AI give you an outline for a novel, but George Saunders said it better, and I can't remember exactly what he said, so I won't try, but it's like that creative core, that authentic voice, that experience, that depth of language and the expression of it is cannot be duplicated. I swear to God, I don't care if ChatGPT can advance and become a brain. Like it's just not the same. It's not enfleshed, it's not embodied, and that's where the power is,
Mm-hmm.
I
And it
think.
can't die. Like it can't die.
It can't die, so it doesn't know shit.
Yeah.
Sorry, like if you can't die, you don't know shit.
Yeah. No,
But you
totally.
can come and clean my house. I'd love to have a robot for that, but not for anything else. Like, a cleaning robot, yes. That's
Yeah.
it.
Let the robots do all the fucking consumerist shit.
Yeah,
It's
let the
just,
robots do housework and chores and bill pay. Like that, and I want that robot.
mm-hmm.
But I don't want anything to mess with like the chaos that's in here. I don't want this organized.
Yeah.
Um, I want it to be mine and I want to pick what I want from it. And I'm sorry, but Chat GPT can't get that out of me.
Yeah.
And no person or robot can.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is like where artists right now have a lot of power because we're not pressured to use it. We are in some ways, but we're not pressured to use it in the way that corporate America is or other fields. Like we just don't have to do it.
Mhm.
because there's no way to do it.
Yeah. This has been amazing. Is there anything else you want to say about Circe or your
Oh,
project or anything like?
no, just that, one thing I'll say about Circe is that the other thing that I've learned or come to realize in the last like decade of my writing life is that I don't like doing things by myself. And I don't think I ever actually have. So writers work in collaboration all the time with editors, with friends. And what I love about working with Gina and this and the clients and the people that we have is that no one is writing a book by themselves and really should not. Like, and so when Gina and I work together, and we've ghostwritten a few books together, we edit together. It's just really fun. Like, and I think that's kind of my word for the next, well, until I'm dead, is like, I really want to have fun with my work and I want to do it. I mean, yes, part of writing is, sitting in a bat cave, and that's fine. But like, I want to know that like on the other side of that is someone who's going to be come into the cave too. And I think that I don't think writers say that enough, and especially male writers are just pretend like they're like geniuses, like spurting out genius things in a in their basements, and they're not. They have help. So I'm all about collaboration. That's kind of I think that's what I love about Circe is that it feels like a collaborative project, not only with our current people that are in our group, but across time and history.